So the School of Social Work 3 years ago started our part-time Master's in Social Work program. Up till that point, we only had a full-time program, and students that wanted to attend part-time had to try to navigate doing it through the full. Our full-time program is unique in several ways. One is that it is self-generating in terms of revenue. It does not use University 101 funds, but rather the program is funded off of the tuition that the students pay to attend. It's a Saturday-only program, so all classes are held on Saturdays. And also, something else that's unique is the fact that this is done in conjunction with Eau Claire, and Bill will talk about the background of how we set up that partnership. But basically, it is a Madison program, but we have two sites. We have the site here on campus, and we partner with University Wisconsin Eau Claire and have a site there in their School of Social Work. So those students attending that site will earn a Madison graduate degree. The nice thing about one of the things that the program does is that is a part of the state where there are really no master programs, and there's a need for social workers who do have their masters, and so that really is a way to ensure that people in the different parts of the state receive services from a licensed social worker. The part-time program, in addition to being on Saturdays, we also have students that come from all over the state. Even in Madison, we were surprised. We thought it would be Eau Claire that would have the students traveling from Minnesota and Hayward and all over, and that's true. Our students also in Madison travel from Oshkosh, Green Bay, Wausau, Richland Center. So every Saturday, these students get up early and get to the university by 9 for classes. So there's very much a commitment. The program is a bit longer. In the full-time program, it's 2 years. Our program is 4 years if a student does not have their bachelor's in social work. If they have their bachelor's, it's 2 years. So it is quite the commitment. This time we had our first graduates last year. So, and the program has, in the 3 years, has grown rapidly and is now as big as, in terms of the number of students, as our full-time program. So all the tuition is paid through Madison. So the Eau Claire students, they register as Madison students. So we get whatever tuition comes in, those dollars. It's a different way to think because as an academic, I never thought about profit. It's never been on my radar. And I think that I and the staff that we've hired, several of the co-directors, Dr. Gloria Fennell, who is a professor in social work at Eau Claire, she and I both have talked about that part is a bit of a struggle to think differently. We have to think, we always are having to look at how much revenue are we projecting. So we're looking at admissions, we're looking at marketing. We have to have a strong marketing part to the program because we have to get the word out. Everybody knows about the full-time program, but does the state know about the part-time program? So having to get that word out, so we're really into marketing, which we haven't done before. We also have to really think about the admissions, the number of admissions, and we had to do a lot of investigation about part-time programs. What are their admission cycles? Their cycles are different than cycles for a full-time program. Because you have to run them longer because people who are going to go into part-time have families, etc., and aren't going to commit in January like full-time students would. In addition to that, we are always having to think about, do we hire short-term staff? Do we hire faculty? Faculty are more expensive. You know, the first year we were hesitant, and then once we saw that we were going to be okay and make a profit, then, or have a surplus, then we were able to say now we can hire faculty. So it's always that thinking about the tuition dollars, how many students we have versus our expenses. And you know, we have to pay for payroll, everything. So you are truly a program unto yourself in that sense. You have your own budgets, and so there's some learning if you haven't had business experience?
We had actually several motivating factors, I think. The first one really does come from the social work community at large in the state. Until a few years ago, the only master's programs, even on a full-time basis, were at the University of Wisconsin-Madison and at the UW at Milwaukee. And in the last 10 years or so, there have been other M.S.W programs that have emerged. Most of them are part-time extended degree programs. We had been looking at getting into having a part-time program just to meet needs, because even the ones that have been created in recent years weren't meeting all the needs that were out there. As Tracy said, people come to our program from all over, so it's clear that there was still a gap. And this was particularly true in the northwest part of the state. We knew they weren't being served at all. And that was reinforced when faculty from the University of Wisconsin at Eau Claire, who only have an undergraduate program, kind of broached us about the idea of, is there a way we could work together to meet the needs up there in that part of the state? The other motivating factor for us as a school was the need for a new, stable source of revenue. I don't think that's unusual for any department, but without a lot of tuition dollars that flow directly into the program, in other words, the 101 funds, the GPR dollars, we're really not meeting our needs. We also have faculty who are very productive researchers who bring in a lot of research money into the campus. But those dollars are largely channeled through institutes and other research centers on the campus as opposed to the school itself. So the need for a new stable funding source really was pressing on us. So this sort of happened simultaneously. I think our third thing was to try to find a model that was workable. Even though we had an ongoing interest, that interest for having a part-time program was around for a long time on our part, but we couldn't devise a model that we thought was attractive to people to come to it. And about that time, we sort of came up with this idea of trying to figure out how to do it on a weekend, on one day in person, as opposed to totally online, or over 3-day kind of models, which are more typical out there. And so about that time also then we came up with what that model should be.
So I think one of the biggest successes and strengths of the program is our partnership with Eau Claire. As Bill mentioned, they approached us, and Bill was on the committee that worked for 5 years to create this model, along with other people in the community and in the school, as well as students were on the committee. And it's there are a couple of partnerships in the system, but that's not the norm. With Eau Claire, it's a partnership, but it's a little different in that it's not an equal collaboration, right? Because it's not an Eau Claire degree and a Madison degree, it's a Madison degree. And so it was really important that we work as equals and it not be Madison controlling and then there's Eau Claire. And for Eau Claire, it was a wonderful opportunity for their faculty to be able to teach in a graduate program, which they had not been able to do. So I think the partnership was key, and that's something that we work on every day. And not because it's difficult, but because we know that without having a good partnership, the program wouldn't work as it does. And so Gloria Fennell is the co-director of the program, and I'm the director of the program. And we work together, we make the decisions together, so it's not just one person making those decisions. Also the partnership, then it's not just the partnership between the staff on the program, it's the partnership between the universities in terms of working together on the different, like for example, if we hire faculty from Eau Claire, we have to buy them. Eau Claire sells them to Madison and we buy them for that semester. And so that type of paperwork, those kind of things, we've really had to work on getting to know the dean there, getting to know her payroll person, our payroll person, knowing their payroll person. So it goes beyond just Gloria and I. having to work in partnership, but the universities have to do that. And I think that people have been, I haven't encountered anybody not being willing to really work at it. Have we had challenges? We have, because it's two big systems trying to talk to each other, and many of the things that we're doing have not been done before. So we continually are breaking ground. But what's wonderful is that LNS and other people working with us have really been supportive. So I feel like that partnership has been great. The other partnership has been technology. You can imagine with two sites, technology can be a challenge. What do you do when you have a class that has a few students at one site and a lot of students at the other? Do you not offer the class in Eau Claire? And what we found is that we have to be equal. The students that are at the Eau Claire site must always be treated the same as the students at the Madison site. We travel constantly back and forth to be there, to appear there. And so it's really important that our technology folks work together. We do things by ITV, so when classes don't fill enough at one side or the other, then that means our ITV people here have to work with the ITV people at Eau Claire. And that's gone very well too. And that's another partnership that has been really key. And then I think the commitment of the faculty has been another success. Faculty are overwhelmed as it is, and they've got the research, and so teaching a class, driving to Eau Claire, but our faculty have done that, which has been wonderful. They've volunteered. I haven't had to ask. So that means that they get up at 5 in the morning to drive to Eau Claire to teach that 9 o'clock 3-hour class, and it's a 4-hour class, and it's an 8-week model. So for 8 weeks, it's a lot of grading, it's a lot of time commitment, but our faculty have done it. So that's been, I think, another key to our success is the fact that our school has really jumped in and been very supportive of the program. And then we've had Bill, which has been a very, I think, a key factor, because Bill is the person, having someone that's been involved from the very beginning, which I wasn't on that committee, but Bill has been. So Bill is always kind of like the history. He's the person that we can go to and we can say, why are we doing this? Or, so I think somebody knowing that one of the factors to success is having somebody who really has a good footing in why things were set up the way they are. What was the reasoning? And keeping a good record of that. And Bill is our walking record.
Institutional memory.
Very definitely. I'm just going to say one thing, and then I really think Bill answers this question. And this is just in terms of the faculty. So I've been there 9 years at the school, and the faculty have talked about the need for a part-time program for a long time. So the faculty recognized we would see our students who had families and full-time jobs trying to navigate this full-time program on a part-time basis, not having a cohort, not really, feeling connected. And so I think that faculty were behind it in that respect. I think we knew there was this need.
I think an important factor here in doing anything like this is you have to have sets of people in different locations on the campus willing to be risk takers. It begins with our faculty. When this idea was first broached, I guess it begins with our director is what I really should say. Our director at the time, Dan Meyer, was willing to consider the idea and to make a commitment that if the faculty agreed and were committed to it, that he would proceed, and he would proceed wherever that road took us. And so that was one of the first things he did, was bring it to our faculty and say, we have this opportunity, we'd like to explore it, but we won't explore it unless you're behind it. And behind it means support in a variety of ways, including willing to teach in the program. And we got that. I mean, there was a faculty resolution, there was complete buy-in, because it had been an interest and a concern for our faculty for a really long time. I think another set of risk takers and partners in the process, certainly the Division of Continuing Studies, key to our success. We did not have the money to begin this We needed upfront monies from a variety of people, and the first big source of it was continuing studies. And in fact, because we were since we were so new at this, they were the people who said, look, you've got to market this. You've got to have more dollars in your budget for marketing and getting the word out, because that's going to be your lifeblood. We're not used to that model. And beyond that, our own college got behind us, and they also helped us financially in the sense of covering the program's costs in its early startup phase, as did a small portion of dollars from the University of Eau Claire. Without those startup monies, we really couldn't have initiated it. And so everybody had to be willing to take the risk. Now, we helped. I think our big role at that time was helping all the risk takers see that the risk wasn't so big. That is, we did our marketing surveys. We did our homework on documenting the need for the program. We came up with numbers of students required to sustain the program. We came up with a plan for how quickly the program would become profitable. In other words, we did a great marketing plan, I think, that we presented to everybody who would listen, I think, on this campus and other campuses. Another risk taker was actually at the chancellor's level at Eau Claire. The chancellor, or vice provost, at Eau Claire was a graduate of our doctoral program. And so when their faculty had this idea, he came along with them to meet with us to present the idea. So he kind of opened up the administrative avenues at Eau Claire that would be necessary. And that led to a partnership with their continuing studies department, because they did our initial market survey of social workers in the entire state. They funded that. So we really had a nice collaboration of ideas, but also dollars to get us started up. Both Dan Meyer, our director at the time, and I have organizational development and organizational financing as part of our backgrounds. And then we formed a committee. One of our faculty members, Sever Austin, has a long-term marketing background, publicity, so on. We got key stakeholders from key social work agencies that would be looking to hire the graduates of this program. We got certain key communities of social workers and others to give us input at the beginning. Social work is sort of lucky because there are something like 15 to 20 undergraduate social work programs, both public and private. Most of them, though, are in the UW system. All of those students want to get their master's degree. So just being able, we could have immediate access to those. It's also a profession that's licensed. And again, the state and our National Association of Social Workers chapter in Wisconsin have access to people who have bachelor's degrees in our field or related fields, and access to their information. So we were able to get out a lot of surveys and a lot of marketing things just to those communities who put them on their mailing list and so on, and got the word out.
Since then, we continue marketing every year, and communications department on campus has worked with us to help us learn how to design. We started with flyers, and so flyers are not good. We learned that postcards are good. Then we learned that we had too small of a postcard. We needed a large postcard. Along the way, we have learned what kind of pictures, what kind of text. So there is a lot to learn there, but communications was really very helpful. Also, continuing studies has lots of email lists of people who have taken workshops. They have lists of people in the community who are interested in child welfare or whatever who've come to their workshops. So they give us these large a list of email addresses. And so we email those every year. We attend conferences, and we get a booth or a table, and we have our marketing materials. We are also now experimenting with videos. So we hired someone in the school, a student, to do videos of the part-time program, interview students, ask them what was their experience, what did they think about it, and then we're putting those up on our web. We also plan to take some of those with us, and we will, when we go out and have tables at conferences, etc., and we'll run those videos. So it's really thinking about, and because it's every year, I don't think they planned for us to make a profit till the 4th year, but we actually made a profit in the second year and paid back monies that we owed. So we did really well, and we will make a profit again this year. But still, we have to continue always marketing the program. So in terms of the quality of the program, the first hurdle we faced was students from the very first day, the part-time program students were saying, are we really getting the same quality education as the full-time? And so it was a constant reassurance in the beginning that the curriculum, we talked about the curriculum, we talked about meeting the Council on Social Work education standards, and so we very carefully made sure that they understood that they were a part of the school. That was the other challenge. So are we stepchildren, or are we really a part of this school because they're not there during the week when everything's happening? So that was a challenge. It was also a challenge to ensure the students at the Eau Claire site that anything Madison got, they got, which meant during the week when we have guest lectures. So we'll have workshops, guest lectures during the week, and of course, since these students are part of the school, they get these emails and they realize we can't come to that. So how does that make us part of the school? So now we videotape every workshop, anything we have, and we put it online. So we are continually having to think about how do we reassure these students. The other thing is, so we meet 5 hours a week as we have an admin team, the co-director and I. We have a program coordinator and a field coordinator. And we do meet 5 hours a week. We have a long meeting, and then we do a 4 to 5 day retreat every summer. And now we've added a winter retreat because each year it's new. So you have your first year, your second year, now you're having second year classes and first year classes. And our students are also placed in the field. So they have to do field placements, which means we are developing field placements all over the state. As well as using ones that the school already has. So it's a continual, we keep thinking maybe after the first 4 years in that we have the first whole, the cohort that went through the first 4 years, maybe we'll have it down. But I think that that's been the big thing, that we have to have so much attention to detail. And, we found out early on that, they wanted to see the director from Madison. They wanted it in Eau Claire. They wanted to see the field, some coordinators. So now we go twice a month. We go 2 Saturdays out of 4. We Skype. We use Skype a lot. We Skype constantly. And our students are able to Skype with our advisors. We learn that our advisors, if one's out and the other one's having to take over, how can she do that if the files are at the other site? Now our advising is all online. So we had to learn how to do that. And our admissions had to go online because we're crossing over 2 sites. So it's a continual, always thinking ahead before we step, trying to think as much as possible through things. And then we have student reps at each site. And we tell students, you can definitely approach us, but if you're not comfortable, then approach your student rep, let your rep know any concerns you have about the program. We meet with the rep or the reps, and then we address those issues. So we want the students to know that we are there for them.
I think I would add to that in that we have a number of structural supports in place to maintain the quality. Social work is a highly regulated profession and educational system, if you will. Tracy mentioned this Council on Social Work Education accredits all schools of social work. It's critical to any program's success. So anything we do to our curriculum must meet accreditation standards, whether it's full-time or part-time, so that it begins there. The other structural support we have in place is that the exact same courses are taught in the full-time and the part-time program. In the part-time program, they're delivered in an accelerated manner. That is, courses can meet 8 weeks for longer hours to come up with a regular 15-week semester worth of time, and all the material in both the full-time and part-time is delivered just differently based on that time frame. And then the faculty who are teaching the courses in the full-time and in the part-time are collaborate together on any innovations or any revisions to that syllabus so that we're assured that content is exactly the same. That's been really, really critical.
And I with both the Eau Claire and the Madison, so you have the full-time, being sure that we adhere to the full-time syllabi and the course content, but then we also I have to work with the Eau Claire and the Madison instructors to make sure they're the same, because Eau Claire, so you have the Madison feeling, in general, you have the students worried about, are we stepchildren, but then you have the Eau Claire feeling like they're over here. So always ensuring that those syllabi are the same, the content is the same, faculty will cover it differently, but that the content is the same. And the other thing, just an example of things that you don't think about, because I think one of the things, you can prepare as much as you want. They worked for 5 years on this program. They tried to think of everything, but when we actually started the program, then all these things pop up, and we're constantly talking and working through them. Just a small example is we had our first 8-week class. At the end of the 8 weeks, the students came to us and said, you know what, our first paper wasn't assigned to the 3rd week. We got it back the 5th week, which by then we'd already had another, so we didn't really get feedback till week 7. So now we've instituted, students are assigned an assignment the very first day, and by week 3 they've gotten their feedback. So it's little things that you don't think about, but that is really important to ensure the students' needs. So I think one of the things innovating programs like this is that you just have to be patient, flexible, and communication, not only between the partners and within the school, but also with the students. You know, always letting the students know, you know, it's a new program, great feedback, we're going to make a change, and we will do it the next 8 weeks.
I think one of the other things you have to do, this is beyond the quality, but sort of the barrier kind of issues or challenges, is that you have to think about what a university campus is like on Saturdays, on the weekends. Who opens the doors? How do the lights get turned on? On football Saturdays, when your parking lot is filled, where do the students park and how do they get into class? That's a Madison issue, not so much an Eau Claire issue. When the faculty member is missing their stuff, how do things get duplicated for class? How do you get ready that day? What has to be in place, and how do you make it work? We're lucky enough to have a coordinator who went through part-time education herself and understood those immediately. But it requires meetings with other people on campus, like the people who do the heating and the and the lights and so on, so that they know you're going to be there, like protection and security, so they know that there's all these strangers going to be in your building at this odd time. We, at one point, I remember there was Elaine Klein from College of Letters and Science, and I've blanked on her name, from the provost's office.
Nancy?
No.
Joyce?
Jocelyn.
Jocelyn.
Sorry. So at one point, Jocelyn Milner and Elaine Klein gathered together this room full of people I'd never met, and I've been on the campus 24 years, but there were representatives from the bursar's office, from the financial aids department, from I can't even remember all the departments, just this room filled with people who would all in some way touch on this program behind the scenes, so that we could get it all out there and have them raise all of the objections and all the possible challenges and barriers they would face to try to come up with solutions. And we had the same meeting with similar people at Eau Claire. That helped a lot, so that when we couldn't find a Xerox machine, people would say, oh yeah, this is what you do. They were behind it, they were supportive. It was really, really phenomenal in making that work. Also, just to rethink, the same set of people, as well as ourselves, had to think about getting rid of these notions of things happen in semesters. Courses happen in 8 weeks, they happen in 15 weeks. Our students have to do an internship, that's what Tracy called the field. They have to be in social work agencies 16 to 20 hours a week as part of this program. Agencies aren't open on Saturdays. They're open during the week, like most businesses. So how do you work with the students to manage their time, but also how do you work with the agencies to be receptive to having this other set of people come in who have sort of different needs and different demands? That's where community partners come into play. They know the circumstances under which these students are arriving and try to make it as easy as possible for them to get what they need done.